guys, Bada Bing here, and thank you for joining me today. Years ago I made a promise to a little boy that one day he will own the gun from Predator. He would watch that movie on VHS in complete awe, witnessing the carnage the minigun would create. Old Painless was his dream gun, and today I'm giving a very special present to that boy. What with it being the 30th anniversary of Predator, it just feels right to celebrate it with this new minigun. It took 3.5 weeks for it to get here, clearing through customs, but what's a few more weeks waiting on top of 16 years? Today we're going to be looking at the M132 Microgun by Classic Army. I bought this little cannon from CWI BB Dragon in Taiwan, and they have always delivered fantastic customer service. I pre-ordered this when it became available, and they were able to provide me with a UK or Japanese version. Fantastic. They even sent me a breakdown of the chrono readings with specific gas used and weights of BBs. Thanks guys! The M132 Microgun is a smaller brother of the larger full-sized M134 minigun. The M134 is constructed entirely of CNC steel, and because of this, they retail for roughly $3,000 to $4,000. That kind of places it out of the grasp of most airsofters. Not only that, they weigh well over 10 kilos, and revolving 6 barrels are electrically powered via an external 12-volt battery. An external HPA tank is used as the BB propellant. Classic Army developed this version, which is smaller, lighter, and best of all, cheaper, priced at a more affordable $600 to $700. Unlike the 6-barreled M134, the Microgun has 4 barrels, and this is one of the ways Classic Army have managed to keep the overall cost down. The Microgun arrives to you in a box, which is just a bit deeper than the one you'll find most rifles stowed away in. Once you open the box, you'll immediately realise that there is some assembly required, but you needn't worry. It's a piece of cake, and they supply you with a manual and all the tools you need to get it up and running. You can watch my setup video via the link in the description. Once it has been assembled, you can admire it in all its splendour. For an all-plastic gun, it's solid. Absolutely rock solid. There's no play or flexing. Classic Army have built this minigun like a plastic tank. The build of the Microgun is mostly constructed of a reinforced nylon fibre polymer. Pretty much the only metal externals are the 4 outer barrels, central BB hopper, and some other smaller bits. The M132's barrels can be powered by a LiPo battery up to 11 volts, and it's installed within a compartment on the right hand side of the unit. It is fitted with the Dean's plug, however Classic Army have also included an adapter for mini Tamiya battery connectors, which is handy. It can be a bit awkward trying to stuff all the wires in, especially if you're using a Tamiya adapter. The end cap can be sealed and has 2 spring-aided pins which find their home within recesses built onto the compartment. Classic Army have made their Microgun a bit more versatile than the M134. This can accept 2 forms of gas. Of course, the traditional HPA solution, where the line would attach just underneath the firing grip. The second form is regular old green gas cans, located in the tube on the left side of the minigun. Now be careful to check your retailers before purchasing bulk amounts of gas to run the M132, as some brands or style of cans just are not compatible. The M132 requires a thinner style green gas cans, and preferably with the screw thread at the base of the nozzle. This will allow the can to lock into the gun and prevent from falling out. I have used Garda Green Gas 1000ml and ASG Ultra Air Power Gas, which is 570ml. You might be wondering how long these gas cans would last. Well, I'll get into that later on. The ammo capacity is 2,200 rounds, and those are kept at the business end of the M132. The tube cap has a large spring attached to it along with a follower, and this allows the Microgun to feed and fire all BBs in any orientation. This differs from the older M134, which didn't feed correctly if it was pointed at awkward angles. This minigun has built-in hop for all 4 barrels and access through the panel on the left side of the unit. You can manually crank the barrel and locate each individual grub screw through the porthole and adjust with the Allen key provided. The first time I hooked up a battery and started the barrel spinning, I couldn't help but grin. In fact, I haven't actually seen anyone without a smile once they've started turning it over. As you grip the handle, depressing the safety and squeezing the trigger, the barrels abruptly spin up with a jerk motion to the left, and you will hear the whirl of the rotary system. Easing off the trigger and the motion stops dead, very similar action to a power drill. I couldn't wait to load up with BBs and screw in a can of gas. Here we go. I know it's not exactly the same model as the one in Predator, but man, do you feel like Blaine when you open it up. It's insane to me that a few second burst and you're sending hate a couple of hundred rounds at a time, and I love it. The stream of BBs is like nothing I've ever seen before. It'll be pretty intimidating to be on the receiving end. Also great if you happen to be in thick woodland and need to pierce through dense foliage. Pulling the trigger halfway will begin the flow of gas, which you will start to see shooting out of one of the barrels. It's only when you pull all the way in, the electric motor kicks in and all hell breaks loose. Towards the beginning of the gas can, I was hitting the back of the range here, which is 50 meters. Of course, anyone within a square meter is going to catch some flak. You don't need accuracy when you have superior firepower. I'm struggling to stop myself from grinning here and try to look as natural as possible. You cannot fire one of these and be all casual about it. You're tearing the earth apart and you're loving every moment. Running this on green gas bottles isn't very stable or consistent the further you get into a brand new can. The longer you hold the trigger down, the range will begin to decrease and drop within 15 meters. So, short control bursts are necessary when powered this way. Furthermore, when you come off the trigger and the barrels stop, you'll hear the gun groaning and winding off. That's just the internal gas equalizing and backing up against all areas within the lines. Sustained firing will cause cold spots to emerge on the receiver. Fire even more, and you may see it icing up. At the icing stage, my minigun would stop feeding BBs effectively. It's like it wasn't picking up any new rounds for the magazine, even though I knew I had plenty left over and the gas can was nearly fresh. I had to leave the gun in the sun to warm up before I continued firing. Due to the trigger having a normal gas blowback style valve release behind it, you may find the grip and trigger itself will get cold too. Within a few minutes it was back up and running. This is one of the problems gassing it up this way. Yes, you can use green gas cans, but only as a last resort. It's okay for plinking in the garden, but for gaming, HPA all the way. If you have been following my channel, you may know that I'm not a big fan of HPA systems. Well, that's kind of putting it lightly. Again, no disrespect to the HPA boys and girls out there, it's just not for me. However, it's necessary for platforms such as this. Support weapons that have to maintain a higher level of suppressive fire. I had an idea back when I first saw the M132 prototypes of having a GoPro mounted to the handlebar and then having it beam the Wi-Fi preview to a heads-up display. It would make for a really cool gadget, but also serve as a sort of aiming device. That way one could position a target at the centre of the frame and engage. This would also reduce all the wasted ammo tracing the arc of fire to your desired targets. I looked for heads-up display glasses that could pair to a GoPro, and found the Recon Jet Smart Glasses, which does exactly that. So here we are, a minigun with a bicycle GoPro mount, smart glasses with a HUD, and one very excited me. It's cool as hell, seeing what the minigun sees in my right eye. This must be what Apache gunship pilots feel like, or Vasquez with their smart gun on Aliens. Out of all my ideas, I think this must be the coolest. But sadly, I don't think the HUD technology is quite there yet. Some features are a little hit and miss, the battery doesn't last long, and even though it's one of the cheaper options in its class, it still holds a high price tag. Unlike receiving the GoPro live feed to your smartphone with an almost non-existent lag, these glasses are impossible to operate on a practical level. 2 seconds spurt of video followed by 3 seconds of lag. Meh, I tried. Something I think could be improved is the trigger. It may require a harder spring. Once I release the trigger, the grip safety does not return on its own. The trigger had to be forced forward in order for the grip safety to engage. Furthermore, I had 2 instances when the gun continued to fire, even though I had come off the trigger. that could potentially be dangerous, and something Classic Army should look at rectifying. From the look of the breakdown within the manual, it seems like an easy fix. This may be just a niggle though, with my individual unit, but since using it I have got into the habit of following the trigger forward with my middle finger to help reset when I have completed shooting. This feedback is something Classic Army could easily work on, and if they want to get in contact with me to discuss further, it would be my pleasure to talk miniguns. In the condition I was using it in, I thought that due to it being non-blowback in operation, the gas could last a little while. Regrettably in practice, it didn't even finish the full 2,200 rounds on a single can. But I say it's skirmishable? Yeah, why not? As long as it's run on HPA. It's a nice option to hook up a can when you're caught short. Also, it does make for a more mobile unit, but not intended for prolonged use. It would be far too expensive to run in that case. Like a gas blowback Mark 19 grenade machine gun that fires tag rounds. That would be sweet though. This microgun is the king of cool, even though it does have its limitations when it comes to green gas. Given the choice between the full-sized M134 minigun or the M132 Microgun, I'd choose the Diet Coke version. The 6-barrel death machine is and has always been the dream, but the M132 is the most practical take upon the Airsoft Minigun. It scores very highly due to its cheaper price tag, solid build, spring-fed magazine, and of course its lightweight. Despite the 4-barreled mayhem, the magazine surprisingly lasts a long time. The rate of fire isn't ridiculously fast, but fast enough to keep heads down and still sound like tearing canvas. Bottom line is, the M132 Microgun is an immense fun time. It would even work well within an airsoft team that want to all chip in and buy that one special team gun. I hope you've enjoyed the video, my friends. If you did, why not show the love by hitting that like, and if you haven't already, subscribe by tapping that icon in the middle. Then you can keep up to date with my latest videos. You can also check me out on social media, on Facebook at facebook.com/badabingpictures, and I'm also on Instagram at badabingpictures. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them downstairs, and until next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you in a bit.